Everybody, this is John Murphy at Murtech.com with your daily news update. All right, here we are on July the 26th in the year of our Lord 2026. That would be 7/26/26. And we have some great information for you. Andrew Klavan, for one, right here he is. I'm sharing him on Murtech.com along with the other videos that I'm sharing with you. But let's just go ahead and click over here to Murtech on Rumble. This is my Rumble channel. This is the episode we're going over here, episode 1990. It says upcoming, but as you know, you are actually watching it. So let's jump into this. Okay, this is the episode. There we go. I told you it was live. I have to pause that. And hey, I've got my 75 unique chatters for this month. So that's great. I appreciate everybody, your support, and chatting with me. That's great. Viper Senior's already here in the chat. Glow, Debbie BS. I'll get back with you here momentarily. Let me go ahead and close that out and slide down here and click the show more button to expand out the description box. We have information from Andrew Klavan, as I said, Robert Gouveia, X22 Report, and Wendy Bell Radio. But before we get into that, let's jump down here, and I've got a lot of shout outs to give here. Glow, good afternoon. Rumble number 5. Good job. Thank you, Glow. GP Wolco01. Also, Jam Shed 14 just started following my channel. Endless Keith just started following my channel. Victor Labs just started following my channel. Jim Powell Senior just started following my channel. Arley's 88 just started following my channel. And Seam's Fitness just started following my channel. So thank you very much, folks, for following my channel. I greatly appreciate that. I hope you're tuned in, and I hope you enjoy the content. All right. Debbie BS reposted my episode 1989. Pav JJJ58 commented on my daily news wrap-up for 7/25. Susan 080 commented on my daily news wrap-up for 7/26. Glow commented on my episode 1990. Debbie BS, today, she commented on that today. Debbie BS, Glow, and Viper Senior commented on my episode 1989. Debbie BS and Roy Neff 7 commented on my extra 772A. Debbie BS commented on my extra 772B. Cotton Ball 31, Debbie BS, and Hull Mini commented on my extra 772C. So let me go ahead and give that a thumbs up. Viper Senior's given me a comment already. Good evening, fellow patriots. Where we go one, we go all. Rumble 6 tonight. Thank you very much. And as soon as I created that comment up above here for my shout outs, I looked at my notification bell, and checked it, and there were two more. Notifications. That's the word I was looking for. Moses 1974 Mallow just started following my channel, and Viper Senior commented on this video here, episode 1990. So let's give that a thumbs up. Okay, a lot of great shout outs tonight. Andrew Klavan, The Word We Cannot Say, episode 1288. Now I'm going to do his monologue like I normally do, and then snap it up here, skip up to about the 11-minute and 20-second mark. But let's see what he has to say here. This is always important information that we all need to live our lives by. Let me go ahead and get it back here.
All social media is abuzz with talk about The Odyssey, Christopher Nolan's film adaptation of Homer's classic epic poem. And many of you may be thinking to yourself, gee, I would like to join this scintillating conversation, but I'm afraid if I say anything, everybody will realize I'm a complete ignoramus. Well, have no fear. If you're an ignoramus, you've come to the right place. You're certainly listening to the right podcast. We're here to help you post intelligent sounding content on a poem you know nothing about without actually having to read this foundational work of Western culture, which you also know nothing about. If you want to discuss the Odyssey as if you were an educated person of sophistication, first, get in the mood by taking that stupid look off your face. Next, when composing your post, try to use at least a few multisyllabic words like concatenation or sacerdotal, as in the sentence, boy, that concatenation sure is sacerdotal. If all else fails, try posting your early opinions on the platform X. That way, if it turns out you really are a total moron, you'll fit right in. Now, of course, if you want to talk about the Odyssey with an air of expertise, it might help if you know something about the author of the original poem, Homer. This is not easy because, as famous as his poems are, Homer himself was a mysterious figure who would come and go like the wind, leaving as his calling card only a single kiss on the lips of a sleeping woman. Experts believe he lived in the 8th century BC, but they're not sure exactly when that was because the math is just too hard. But we do know that many people think that Homer was blind because he kept bumping into things, and all the statues of him just have white eyeballs without pupils in them. Homer wrote 2 famous poems, the Iliad and the Odyssey, but you don't have to know much about the Iliad because Christopher Nolan didn't make a film about that, and the one with Brad Pitt sucks. The Odyssey, however, has many famous stories in it, some of which are still relevant today. For instance, there's the passage in which the hero Odysseus and his crew sail past the sirens, who sing beautiful and alluring songs that cause unsuspecting fools to try to follow them so that they dash their ship to pieces on the rocks and sink into the sea and drown. Today, these same sirens serve as consultants for the Democratic Socialists of America. Then there's the story about the witch, Circe, who turned men into pigs and later went on to become a famous feminist author, also named Circe. Her book, Men Are Pigs, So Live a Life of Rage and Loneliness Until You Realize Too Late You've Missed Out on Everything Worthwhile, was a #1 New York Times bestseller, even though it only sold 7 copies, all of them to women who work at the New York Times. Many of Circe's admirers later felt betrayed, however, when she married a ruggedly handsome billionaire in an elaborate Catholic ceremony with a spank me daddy motif, and then gave birth to 14 children, all named after pork. Another famous incident in the poem that remains relevant today is the story of the Trojan horse, in which the Trojans opened the gates of their city and let in the enemies who then burned Troy to the ground. This later became the immigration policy of the Biden administration. Now, some people may ask, why should we be interested in a poem that was written so long ago that people can't even compute when it was? These same people may also find it difficult to walk and chew gum at the same time unless they keep looking down at their feet and have instructions on how to chew gum written on top of their shoes. The reason you should read the Odyssey and other great works of literature is that it will help you become a more rounded and informed human being with a sense of where you came from and who you are. The downside is you'll no longer be welcome on X. Trigger warning, I'm Andrew Klavan, and this is The Andrew Klavan Show.
All righty then. Well, once again, he's cleared everything up for me. And, I don't know if that helped you out any, but I'm definitely feel a little dumber. I don't know that I meant to say that. Here we go. Chapter 1.
Chapter 1, It's Not History. So on Klavan's On the Culture, we're talking to Spencer about the Odyssey. We talked about the fact that it's very difficult to depict the gods. One of the things we both liked in the Odyssey is he does not shunt off the supernatural. He shows you monsters. He shows you all the mythological creatures that are in the original, and he even shows you the gods, though he kind of makes it unclear whether the gods are taking place in Odysseus's mind, which you can read the text that way too. But in the text, the gods talk to one another and all this stuff. But unfortunately, when you do that on screen is a very realistic medium, and when you do it on screen, you very quickly get into the Clash of the Titans territory, where you're making a sort of 1950s Kirk Douglas Sand and Sandal movie, and so it's not Nolan's fault that he chooses not to do it. It's a very difficult thing to do. It's true in horror films as well. If you watch horror films, you'll repeatedly see films with demons in them, but with no God in them. There's spiritual evil, but there's no spiritual good. Even remember the old Exorcist had religious priests fighting with the devil, but in the last Exorcist, there was a question whether there was a God at all. There was just a devil, and this is a real thing that you see again and again. Pictures like Smile is another one, and Longlegs had that in it. This was quite a common thing in horror films, and it's true in some sense in everyday life as well. We see evil, but the things that sustain life and make life matter are all invisible. All the sacred things are invisible. Liberty is invisible. Love is invisible. It's just things that you act out. Whereas evil just has a kind of tangible, immediate quality. As the Bible says, no one has ever seen God. And I think that is why it makes, that is why we are in this situation, because of the kind of scientific mindset which is now ingrained in just about everybody, put together with this fact that God works invisibly, but evil works through human beings. And so you see it there right away. So, and the other problem about this is basically the only time that people talk about God or religion is when they're telling other people what they shouldn't be doing. I mean, you occasionally get the honest person who says, God has accused me or something like that. But, mostly it's you're gay and so you're going to hell, or you want strong borders, so you hate Jesus. But they don't talk about the important question of how God figures into the physical things that are going on in our lives and in history and in our nation. I've tried to sell articles explaining, for instance, you've heard me say that anti-Semitism is the hatred of God. And I've tried to sell those to mainstream newspapers, op-ed sections, and they won't take them because the newspapers are dealing with the news and they feel the news has nothing to do with God, and it's very hard for me to sell things that explain that, you can't make moral sense without God. Where do you put that in a newspaper? Where do you put that in something that's just dealing with the news? I had in university, I took a course, I believe it was a 3-quarter course on Christian history. And of course, it started with the Christ and the apostles and everything. And it was taught by a very famous historian of Christianity. And he got to the resurrection and he was saying, look, these people were decimated. The apostles and the followers of Jesus were just destroyed by the fact that he had been killed. And then he said something happened. We're not sure why, but suddenly after this incredibly discouraging event, despair, walking away, suddenly they all coalesced and came together and started to preach the gospel. And somebody in the class raised her hand and said, well, why don't you just say that it was the resurrection? And he said, and I think he may have been a believer, I'm not sure, but he said, because that's not history. That's not history. In other words, history is these facts, and news are facts, and God is, does he fit in there or not? Well, my question is, St. Paul said if Jesus was not resurrected, Christians are the most pitiful people in the world because we're following something that just isn't true. And so the question is, if he was, isn't that history? Well, it's either history or it's not, and it makes a difference whether it is, and you can't argue about it if you can't talk about it, if you can't say the word God when talking about the news or when talking about history. And yet, the crisis of spirit is all around us. There's an article in the Washington Post by a man named David Destino, a very smart professor of psychiatry, who talks about religious experience from a psychological point of view. Here's the headline, and listen to this carefully because it really is an amazing story. People of faith are finding a new moral guide in, fill in the blank, AI. Today, millions are seeking moral guidance from AI chatbots. It might seem reasonable to assume that those who reject religion as a source of wisdom would be more inclined to turn to AI for a seemingly comprehensive and objective analysis of the moral consequences of any action. But this isn't the case. It's actually people of faith who more regularly turn to AI for moral guidance and spiritual advice. This is what we call idolatry. People are turning to AI because it kind of seems like it's speaking out of the ether, so it must be like God. So Destino, the writer, asks, why should this be? And he says a big factor that makes this confusion possible is the tendency of humans to believe that they are not solely physical organisms, that they have an immaterial soul as well as a physical body. The belief is held in some form by the majority of humans, perhaps because, as the psychologist Paul Bloom argues, it is a natural feature of the human mind. When you combine that with another cognitive habit identified by Bloom, our tendency to see agency as opposed to randomness, is you're left with a predisposition to ascribe thoughts, feelings, and intentions to non-human objects or forces. In the past, this tendency may have led people to believe in a sea god or a wind deity. Actually, in the past, what it did is it made people idolaters. It's in the Bible. Do not think that these objects that you made with your hands are talking to you, are gods. You made them with your hands. They're just wood. And now it's just AI. So it's idolatry. But Paul Bloom, whose books I've read, he's a smart man, but he's also an atheist, of course. And he believes that evolution gave us these propensities to make sense of things, to see agency in things, to feel that we have a soul. This is evolution just kind of accidentally bestowed these ideas on us. And therefore, it's not real. Jonathan Haidt makes a similar argument. But to me, this is really silly. We didn't evolve an eye and therefore invent light. So we didn't evolve a sense of a soul and therefore invent the soul. We evolve things in reaction to things that exist, right? We didn't involve, Paul Bloom's book is called, something like How We Invented Morality or something like this about babies, called Just Babies. And the subtitle is something like How We Invented the Idea of Good and Evil. No, we perceived good and evil just like we perceive light, and we developed the sense to see it, right? But this is the way the scientific mindset is, and so the question is, are these mystic ideas that we have, this sense of a soul, the sense that you are as alive as I am, which is the basis of the golden rule, did we develop those ideas just accidentally or through some kind of elaborate game theory, or are they bestowed on us, maybe through the process of evolution, maybe through another process, but are they bestowed on us through God? If you don't have that sense of things, if you don't have a sense of morality, if you don't have a sense of the otherness of people, the reality of other people, then you're left with nothing but cold logic. When Ben Shapiro says facts don't care about your feelings, what he means by that is facts don't change because you feel that they should. That's correct. But if you mean that feelings don't matter, that facts are the important thing, but feelings don't matter, that makes no sense whatsoever. Our feelings, our sense of things are important. Using reason and feelings together is how we come to a closer approximation of human life, right? This is why God gave us women, because they don't have the capacity to reason, but they're so cute that we allow them into our lives, and therefore we add to our sense of reason, we add their sense of just intuition and knowing stuff, which is really annoying. And then we become more realistic. If you actually live with a woman and love her, you will become more realistic. You will see more of the world because you will add to your reason her sense of feeling.
Okay, I got to pause that there. I apologize to the ladies listening. I'm sure that was just a joke. Okay, but at any rate, that one history professor that he was talking about, that about God and it's Jesus Christ rising from the dead. It was not history. Well, okay, then why isn't it history? I mean, it's written about in the Bible, which is one of the best history books out there. And we should believe that because it's written about. If not, then how do we know that World War I happened? Okay? How do we know that Civil War happened? The only way we know about it is because it was written about in history books. And that's how we know about it, or we think we know about it, I guess. It's not really history because, hey, it was just written about. The logic there is like the logic of a liberal professor. Amazing, huh? Okay, well, let me click on this Rumble link here and show you that this video does come from Andrew Klavan. This is the video I shared with you. I've given you a thumbs up. This will be in my daily news wrap up if you'd like to watch more of this. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and jump back here. And all right, got good chats going here. Don't let it die. Keep chatting, folks. All right, let's slide down here and see what Robert Gouveia has to say about voting problems explode, Biden's final backstab, and Shiloh Hendrix verdict. Okay, let's see what that's all about. If this will start, there we go.
Starting right here.
Okay.
Major election problems continue to emerge from throughout the entire nation. We see that in the aftermath of New Jersey's bombshell explaining that there were at least 6,600 non-citizens on the voter rolls, other states are starting to shake things up and to investigate what's going on their voter rolls. And we suspect a lot of this is in the aftermath of Harmeet Dillon, the Trump admin, and others saying, we're going to be coming for you if you facilitate illegal aliens voting on our elections. We saw that in New Jersey, 400, give or take. We still don't know really who those people were, what they voted for, where they came from, or what they are doing, or whether they'll be prosecuted for, voting illegally, even though they're not supposed to be here. But now we see there are new problems that need to be addressed. And this story just popped this week explaining that Alaska is now sending 3,000 letters out to their own voters, so-called, asking them to verify their citizenship, which means, according to Alaska records, they're probably not citizens. And we're asking, how could this amount of people get on a voter roll list when they've explained it's not possible? It's all just made up by our side. And it's all a giant conspiracy theory. Much ado about nothing, as they say. We don't even need to talk about the SAVE Act because it's just not happening. Turns out it is, and it's happening all over the place. And as usual, we suspect these are limited hangouts, that the numbers are, in fact, much higher, but the states have to pretend like they're doing something about this in order to evade any potential criminal liability after the election is over. And so this was a big one. It's even catching the Alaskans by surprise. And maybe this is why Lisa Murkowski has come out officially, the senator from Alaska, and said, we don't want any support of the SAVE Act from her office. Now we see 3,000 letters went out. We've got an August 18th primary coming up there in Alaska. And now this 3,000 number of letters going out is much higher than usual. Unusually high is what they say. And this has raised concerns among some state lawmakers out there, including one who said that some constituents who received them are U.S. citizens. Now, Alaska Division of Elections Director, a woman called Carol Beecher, told state lawmakers during a hearing that it appears that, quote, a lot of old data was picked up somehow when the division conducted voter roll maintenance that compares its list with the DMV list. And the process usually comes back out with 200 names, but not now. Now it's 3,000. She also estimated during that hearing that it was probably about 3,500 that went out, but they confirmed the number was about 3,048. And of course, everyone's paying attention to this now because it's been admitted by the left. They've said forever that it's not happening. Turns out it is. They came out and confirmed it for us. Research and prosecution say it's extremely rare, but now we know that's not true. And they always try to minimize it. Okay, 400 people voted. That cancels out 400 people's votes. Would you like your vote not to count? Are you okay, Mr. Liberal, if your vote is being canceled by an illegal alien? Why don't we volunteer your votes? But we don't want our votes to be watered down. Now, Trump, of course, wants to push changes through. We want Congress to get it done. Lisa Murkowski refuses to do that. And this, of course, though, is not disenfranchising voters. This happens as part of routine list maintenance, something that we've been demanding forever, something that the blue states have adamantly opposed. The Alaska letter asks recipients to affirm their citizenship. Very simple to do that. All they got to do is send a letter back in. All they need to do is make a phone call or an email. They're not even requiring paperwork or documentation. And those who receive the letter, though, are removed to the list of, quote, inactive voters. So they're not going to be able to vote in this upcoming election. And we covered earlier this week another letter from the Democracy Docket Dorks who sent that over to Brad Raffensperger. It was a demand letter. Raffensperger in Georgia identified 100,000 names on their list that were problematic, potentially. Not confirmed, but he said, hey, I got to send this out to the rest of the counties and have them validate these things. If you investigate and find that there's a problem, you guys need to boot them off. But that's a big number. And the democracy folks, the leftists, they don't want that to happen at all. They sent a letter. They said, you got a couple of false positives in there. So you have to stop the entire inquiry and send another letter back to the county folks and tell them, stop your checking, because the lists and the problems with the list are beneficial to their efforts. So if the division doesn't hear back, they could still cast a special kind of ballot that requires that they attest that, yeah, I actually am a citizen. But others said, it is not disenfranchising the individual from being able to vote. It's just a simple measure that the division has to take to make sure that we only have citizens voting, which is obvious. Now, people who respond to the letter that say they are citizens will go right back to the active list. One person, a state rep called Andrew Gray, a Democrat, said the only people who had contacted his office were citizens, clearly, right? Because a non-citizen is not going to say, oh, I'm registered as a citizen on your list. Another Democrat asked if the letters were related to another decision last year to share some data with the DOJ. But Beecher said, no, it has nothing to do with that at all. This is the information that we have received specifically from the DMV, which is what we saw happening in New Jersey. Same situation we saw happening in Arizona that we've covered here for days. She said the Division of Elections is not heard from the DOJ, and they're not telling us that they're non-citizens. And the DMV says, wait, but you asked for our information, and that was non-routine. Now, Alaska was one of at least 16 states that have provided or said it would provide the data back to the Trump folks: name, date of birth, driver's license, partial socials, and more. Alaska and Texas also signed on to it. And Homeland wants to run the state lists through the federal list so that we can validate that we don't have non-citizens on there. Now, voting and civil rights groups sued. They said, you guys cannot share anything. And they call themselves voting rights groups and civil rights groups. Really, they're just electioneering groups that are working on behalf of the Democratic Party, like the League of Women Voters, which is a nonprofit that has been set up literally to create standing, to file lawsuits, and enter into settlement agreements. They've been doing this for years now, including back in 2020. So in response to the questions, the Division of the Motor Vehicles released a memo on Thursday, and they provided the agency with 15,000 DMV license and identification applicants and requested that the DMV provide citizenship records for those people. The memo said it was a non-routine request, okay? And so that is not a big number. If we're thinking, okay, maybe 3,000 on the top line out of 15,000 on the bottom line, maybe the number's way bigger than 3,000. The memo said that the Division of Elections followed up in June. DMV said it responded and gave data, included only those records where the latest record confirmed status for an individual was other than a citizen. So some state list is saying they don't have proof, they don't have validation that these people are citizens, and so now they're following up on it. All good, all normal. This is what we should be doing everywhere, and validating this like once a month. Just have some automated systems that just run through the spreadsheets. Kirch said that his agency had sent the DMV, quote, the entire voter list, and they ran ours against theirs. So maybe it is everybody. Now, officials unsure why so many voters had their status questioned. Beecher, during the hearing, said it remained unclear why the list of voters identified as potential non-citizens was so large. It is possible people applied to get a driver's license before they were citizens, and then since after that became citizens, but those people didn't show up in the records. Saying, I believe that people probably don't realize that all of these governmental entities don't talk to each other, which is part of the problem. And Kirch gave an example on Thursday. He said, listen, what if a person was not a citizen some years ago, but they received their driver's license and then became a citizen and then registered to vote? The state pays an annual dividend from its oil wealth fund, and the DMV would still have the old records. That is one possibility, right? But what if they don't not become a citizen? What if all of that happens, but they don't become a citizen and they do those other things? That's why we want to check and validate it. So he said people should update their information just to make sure. And that's all good news, but that's another big fat number that is now an open question. And so Alaska is looking into it. So we're seeing that elsewhere, we have some pretty big problems that are out there. In Arizona, there were hundreds of undeliverable Arizona ballots that we just discovered after the last primary, which took place earlier this week. And it's more than hundreds. In fact, it's 1,300 mail-in ballots that were marked undeliverable.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pause that there. Isn't that amazing, though? I wonder what they're going to do with those undeliverable ballots, if they're going to just put them back in a back room someplace until they need them so that they can fill them out the way they want. Amazing, huh? Who knows what's going to happen to that? But I will include this in my daily news wrap up. So if you want to watch more of it, he goes on here for about 2 more hours. So he's got a lot of great information here, folks. Let me click on the Rumble link here and show you that this video does come from Robert Gouveia. This is the video I shared with you. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. All right, jumping back here, Susie Poll 2016's joined us in the chat. Hi, Susie Poll. How you doing? Okay, let's see what X22 report, Mr. and Mrs. X, has to say. Trump is exposing Obama's infiltration in the U.S. It's everywhere, and he failed. Episode 45. Okay, well, let's check that out. Now, this is Rumble Premium.
Mrs.
Okay?
X.
This is premium only, but since I have premium, I can share this with you. Here we go. Let's go.
See the D a lot over there, and I just want to welcome Mrs. X.
Hey, everyone.
Now, today, what we've been noticing, and it looks like Brandon Gill, he has been questioning a lot of different organizations in Congress. And what we've been seeing is that these organizations have been infiltrated. And as we can see, the Ds and the deep state players, they've taken a very long time in infiltrating our organizations and trying to teach our young how to hate America,
basically,
and push DEI and everything else,
and also kind of warp our history a little bit, like pretending that like this is the more accurate version, or not really presenting history, or presenting, like, they're definitely pushing a certain agenda, and it's very obvious, and it just seems very skewed when you're looking at this and what they're doing, and how they're approaching it to make you just believe that America's awful. We're occupying. We've occupied stolen land, and and making our history very dark and evil and awful. And again, we touched on this a little bit before. No country's history is perfect. I mean, all we can do is learn from it and do better. But they are definitely infiltrating and making it like we're supposed to feel a certain way about America, and it's not a positive one.
No, and you could see that they've been really focusing on white supremacists.
Yep.
And they've been saying, if you think, positively, if you want to support yourself, he's attacking guilty to make the white group apologize for even existing.
Yeah.
And that's the infiltration. That's what you're seeing right now.
Well, it kind of started with Obama, really.
Yeah, no,
that was
where all
a
this
big
came
part
from.
of his push was that specific agenda. Like, and now it's just gone to so far, especially under Biden. It was like, oh, reparations and take a knee and all of this stuff that was just trying to make you feel bad about existing and breathing.
Well, that's how you destroy the country. If you're going to infiltrate the country and you're going to eventually bring in, the illegals that are terrorists, cartel members, and the rest, you need to brainwash the people of the country to accept this.
Right.
You have to accept that America's bad. You have to accept, that, hey, we're divided, even without saying that we're divided, but actually, I guess, filter into everyone's mind that, yes, we are a divided nation.
Right.
We should be ashamed of what we've done.
Right.
The country should be ashamed of itself, and we should pay people for everything.
Well, it's interesting because, I think we did also touch on this a little bit, like watching the whole World Cup unfold in our country, which was such a fun thing. Like I said, I don't even really follow soccer as a rule, or football as it's known in Europe, but it was so fun to see our country excited about it, and exciting to see other countries excited about it. And I told you the common theme I kept seeing on some of these social media accounts of these players from different countries and different teams were saying, oh my God, everything I was told about America was wrong. The country, like when they sing their anthem, they love their country and America's so great. And why does everyone keep telling us America's awful and they all hate each other? And I thought that was a very interesting theme, because until you experience it, it's very easy to believe the news or believe what everyone's telling you. But then when you go and experience yourself, you really can't argue with that, because you're like, what are you talking about? I'm having a great time in America. And I think that was a very positive spin. And I think, like you said, when you see like Brandon Gill going after these organizations, you see how deeply rooted it is in their mission statements or their website or their press materials they're putting out. And it's really sick and it's sad, because these are institutions that taxpayer dollars are paying for.
Right. Well, this is how the infiltration begins. And the point that you made about the World Cup, where they told the players and the people of the other countries how bad America is, because most of these people came here saying that they thought there was going to be like a shootout.
Yeah.
That people are they have guns and people just shooting in the streets, and there's death and murder everywhere. Americans are mean. Because you have to remember, if you're going to complete the operation of convincing not just the people in this country, but the people around the world that America is bad,
right,
you have to paint this picture, because you have to remember the rest of the world looks up to the United States. The United States has a constitution like no other country, where we, the people, created the Constitution. If you look at the UK, if you look at France, if you look at Germany, the government created the Constitution and actually gave the people privileges. And if you notice, those governments can take those privileges away anytime they want.
As they are doing.
And that's what they do. So they had to convince the people of the country, of those countries, that America was bad. Do not look up to America. Actually, I heard some of the players saying that they thought there was going to be shootouts. They also have to convince the people that it was a good idea getting rid of all the weapons in their country.
Right.
Because you don't want to be like America, where people are just dying in the streets from all the shootings that are going on.
Right.
So, this is the brainwashing that they went ahead and they did over the many, many years. And what we're actually seeing now is the infiltration. That's what's being exposed right now.
Mm-hmm.
Before, it was behind the scenes.
Right.
Before, no one was really talking about it. Then the Trump administration came in. You have Brandon Gill, Tim Burchett, and the rest. They're all bringing it out into the open, showing that these organizations, these different agencies, they are all involved in brainwashing our young people.
Yeah.
And of course, they're playing the long game. They're brainwashing them, where they are hoping that the next generation and the generation after that completely and utterly hate America. They don't want to fight for America. And they actually look at the Constitution and think that we shouldn't have it. Basically, they're moving towards communism.
Yeah. No, well, 100%. I mean, you just keep seeing all these communist ideologies at the forefront. I mean, look at Mondami. I mean, I feel like every other day there's a new speech with him coming out and with his little dumb smile where I just want to, this is awful, but I just want to punch him in the face. But anyway, that's an aside note. But he just has this little smile and he's just sitting there going, yeah, there should be no billionaires in this country. No one should have that kind of money. Like when we have such inequality, I'm like, if you don't like the way Americans do business and do life, go to another country, go to a communist country, go live there where everyone's equal. You get what you get. You don't get upset. And that's at the end of the story. And again, to me, I love how everyone's like surprised. I'm like, I guess you didn't know who you were electing into office in New York City. The fact that this guy is telling you that there shouldn't be billionaires, thinking that he has any kind of clout to be meeting with ambassadors of foreign countries. He's the mayor of friggin' New York City. Like, get over yourself already. You're a mayor. And the fact that you think you can literally trump the president of the United States, President Trump, is outrageous and ridiculous, and just goes to show that he's pushing the envelope and seeing how far he can go. And then he doubles back and goes, oh no, that's not what I meant. Oh no, I'm not going to do that. And with his little smile and whatever, and he goes and weasels off until he finds another way. But this is like the prime example, because he's just so out in the open, but they've all been doing this behind the scenes for many years. Like, look at Tim Waltz. He just was in the shadows for a long time doing his shady
Well, of
stuff,
course.
Yeah,
well, they hide what they're doing. They're not going to tell you that, hey, look, we're criminals. We're laundering money.
No, I know.
We're supporting.
But Mondami's pretty out there.
At this point of the game,
I guess you have to double down.
I think since
Nothing to
he's being
lose.
coached by Obama, he is pushing everything forward, trying to get the people, on his side, saying, listen, I'm going to give you free buses. I'm going to, free bus rides, free food, free this, free that, free that, free this. And what he's trying to do is he's trying to get all the people, because again, it sounds good when you say we're going to give you everything for free, especially when they've been forcing the businesses out,
Right.
when they've been forcing the wealthy people out of the city, they have to make up for it somehow, some way, saying, okay, we're going to give you free stuff. So this way you can live in the city. But the problem is when all these people are pushed out of the city, you don't have the money. Remember, socialism, communism only works
Yeah, they don't
if you
work.
have capitalism.
Well, what's interesting too is they're noticing, like, and here's the thing, like you said, it sounds good in the beginning, but then the people have real life experience and they're like, wait a minute, there's no food in this free grocery store.
Well, they
Because
did. I think it was Kentucky where they had
they've
a
done it in a few places.
communist supermarket, and the
Yes.
shelves were always empty.
Yes. and-
Actually closed down. It costs way too much money.
Of course it does, because again, that's what this country was founded on. You work hard, you build your life, you provide for yourself. Like that's the principles we were founded on by our founding fathers. Like this, like, oh, you can get anything for free. And of course it sounds good. Everyone's like, yeah, I'll take free because no one wants to work. And it's like, well, there are consequences for that. And
well, they have to do it because if you're pushing out all the jobs and you're pushing
right.
your policies and there are no jobs to be found, the only thing left to tell your constituents is that I'll give you everything for free.
Right.
Because again, these people, they need voters. They need someone to vote for them.
Right.
So even though they have cheating involved, they still need voters. So, I mean, this is what they do. But again, in the end, it's all going to fail. If you notice, do you see everyone running from America to North Korea?
Nope.
Running to Cuba? I mean, they don't have mass migration problems.
No.
Where people are, I don't mean people leaving. I mean people coming into those countries.
Right.
How come the United States is one of the only countries that actually have anything like this? And I'm not talking about the Soros push of taking the Muslims and pushing them into Europe. I'm talking about the people around the world who want to come to America.
Well, what's interesting is think about how many Hollywood people, when President Trump was getting elected, again, they're like, I'm leaving. That's it. I'm done. And then most of them either didn't actually leave or they left and they came back. Why? Like, ask yourself that. Like, why did, like, Rosie O'Donnell, I'm leaving. I can't be in a country where he's president. Guess what? She's back.
Ellen DeGeneres,
Yeah,
she
but
came back.
they came back.
Because this is the best country in the world. And
Yep.
they don't want to
And
admit
they know
because
it.
they're part of the problem.
Yeah.
And this is the infiltration that's being exposed to the people of this country, because without seeing it, without seeing the different agencies like the American Bar Association, without seeing the Smithsonian, without seeing the different agencies in DC, without seeing all of this, you wouldn't believe it, because infiltration has been happening for a very long time because they want to take over this country.
Yeah. I mean, there's not much more to say on that, but it is really, it's just sad when you're seeing like how manipulative it is. And you see, like, I just think about the Smithsonian. I remember the first time I went to the Smithsonian many years ago, and it's such a cool thing. It's such a great piece of American history. But then you see this new, I don't know how long do you know how long she's been president of the, I mean, not that it matters, but
I think since 2019.
Okay. So Hardig, right? Is that her
Yes.
last name? So she was basically in the hot seat with Rep. Brandon Gill this week. And it was very interesting listening to her talk about, actually, she really didn't answer anything. Like anytime he would ask her a yes or no question, she did her best to avoid it. And it's really sad. And he was really bringing to light, like going through their policies and going through what they've been promoting over these last several years. And she's a very interesting piece of work.
Yeah. So let me just play a clip. And this is Hartig, who was talking about, well, actually, Brandon Gill was asking about white supremacy and being polite. So just take a listen to the exchange.
Excuse me, sir?
Is it important to be polite?
Yes, sir.
It's also interesting because the same mass action toolkit that your organization has been promoting references politeness as a defining characteristic of white supremacy culture. Ma'am, are you a white supremacist?
No, sir.
You're not. Can you help me square why your organization says that being polite is part of being a white supremacist?
I'm not exactly familiar with that passage of the Mass Action Toolkit, which is not
I can show you the
one that we
passage is right
developed.
here.
I mean, really saying that I'm not familiar with the toolkit. All of a sudden, she doesn't know about her own policies. And I think it's outrageous to sit there and say that manners have to do with being a white supremacist. I mean, just having good manners, which to me goes along with being a good human being. Like, to me, manners has nothing to do with race. And the fact that we're making it about race is where I mean, I know where their heads are at, but it's outrageous. It's truly outrageous.
Well, number one, and I said this before, since she doesn't know her own policies, should she be in this position? Is she incompetent? Or
Yeah.
she knows the policies and she just doesn't want to answer. If you notice, they always like to skirt around the issues. They're
Always.
very, this is what I noticed about
Yeah.
the infiltration and all the DEI hires. They're very good at putting out the documentation. They're very good at convincing people when they come in and they hear all of these things. But when they're questioned about it, all of a sudden they don't know about it. They can't answer about it.
Yeah.
They have no idea. And that is done on purpose because they know exactly what they're doing. Let me just read.
I'm going to go ahead and pause this here and move on to Wendy Bell. Again, this will be in the daily news wrap up. I'm about a third of the way through this. I'm like 15 minutes into this, and it's a like 46-minute video. So there's more great information. And, you know, I like to share Mr. and Mrs. X because, you know, they're just sitting there. I guess they're having coffee and, you know, just talking kind of like what my wife and I do. You know, it's just like crazy. What the hell's going on? And I'm sure you guys do that with your family as well. Let me go ahead and click on the Rumble link here and show you that this video does come from X22 Report.
Because, again,
This is the video I shared with you. I've given them a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. Alrighty then, let's jump back here. And let's see what Wendy Bell does have to say on Weekends with Wendy. Here we go.
Oh,
Let me get it up here started.
Morning. How's
because
the
you guys
family?
had almost 900, over 900 comments on Friday.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
That's totally nuts. And Alan went through
Yeah, I
and
commented about 6 times myself.
texted me that or emailed me this morning at like 3. Alan, go to bed, babe. What's sadder that he's up
funny.
sending them, I'm up reading them.
I was just gonna say I was up at 3:30.
I was up at 4, yeah. But he said that last weekend we had 91,500 views. It's like people are going back and they're listening to what we're talking about, which is kind of cool because to Alan's point, he's like, nobody's sitting around and shooting the breeze about conspiracy theories or strange stuff that's going on, you know? And so I'm delighted that you're here and thank you. Brock and I have been up for the last hour and a half, literally talking about you. I mean, literally, I wish you guys knew how much we talk about regarding you and stuff that we want to do with you, for you, around you, everything regarding the shirts, everything regarding all of the merch that we're going to be putting out. Like, and I'm just going to float this to you because we're going to put out a really beautiful Army shirt, and it's going to be a high quality shirt, and it's going to be more expensive than I think a typical 1999 shirt. And I think we should err on the side of quality. And so that's why I think we're going to do something that's really very special. And I'm excited to have it for you because you guys rock. And the Greta story, I said to 3 different people over the weekend, I told the Greta cat story and how we just started mentioning this cat and Lindsay. And then all of a sudden it was just like crazy. And what you've done to change not just Lindsay and her situation by providing her this now paid for expensive surgery for her mouth that's going to be done by Dr. Mike's office. You've given Lindsay the feeling of being a part of a herd, that she's cared for and appreciated, and she's blown away by it. And
So am I.
And so am I. And I was going to say, and the ripple effect has been terrific. You've totally changed my mental state on Tuesday, completely changed it. And I'm very lucky for that. Thank you.
And I'm going to piggyback off of, the T-shirts of trying to keep it what we shown you guys, and not change it too much, and still trying to keep the price with the quality as little, I don't. My thing is, I don't want to make it too expensive. Um, Wendy
And
wants
my thing
quality
is,
and is quality, and I agree. Like, when we first started, this is what we did, and it peels, and it's yeah, we don't want to do that. We want to have quality, but we don't want to gouge. I don't want to gouge you guys, but we've also talked about
Brock's
people.
cheap, I'm not, so we're meeting in the middle.
Yes, people have asked about mugs. We're going to put mugs back in the store. People have asked about, because the third set is coming.
Second Amendment commemorative gifts, the magazines, the
Is
AR
coming out,
magazines.
and people have asked about the prior. So we're gonna have we're gonna put some more in of the first and the second edition. And what else are we? Oh, we're gonna do the Gary Varvel comic
ornaments.
I
think they're going to be beautiful. And the local artist who's going to do them, JP DeRoll, is he's just something special.
You know what's great? What's great about him, and he's cutting out the middleman. What he's going to do for us. He used to send it to someone. He'd send his artwork to someone, and they do it for him. Now he's doing it all himself. He's like, why am I doing this? So he's building this. Even
you
the
guys
new
have created businesses for people. You've created side hustles for people. Lindsay has a side hustle, right? Jolene has a side hustle. She does the merch. And now we've got this wonderful photographer who puts his beautiful pictures on metal. And he puts Gary Varvel's cartoons of us on a two-sided ornament for Christmas, which is going to be beautiful. It's not just tacky in your face, like, it's going to be a really beautiful day. And thank you for being our army. It's essentially what it is, and you guys created that. So anyway,
and
I just love you. 98,000.
Oh yeah, less than 2,000 people away from 100,000.
So exciting!
And we're still looking at the stickers in the car decals. So that's the next.
Anyway, so let's start talking about some dirt. What's this about Ilhan Omar's sister? Shut up. What? She got $2 million for part of her business during COVID, and her mailing address was the mailing address used by some of the people who got snagged in the Feeding Our Futures scam. What? That's so, I can't even believe it. Why is this person not being investigated? Where is it all? I think it's the speed, Brock. It's the speed. We don't see anything. Are we just going to, is it going to be where we're going to actually sit down and it's going to be indictment, criminal charges, trial, you're guilty. Is that going to happen?
I want to hear, and I think I'm the majority. I want to hear about less of the fraud, of who's committing the fraud, and more about the
punishment.
Who's getting indicted for the fraud. Stop telling me about all the fraud they're doing. We know. I just sent you a story that I can just read the headline of it. Let me find it. U.S. government loses up to $521 billion, almost $500 billion annually to fraud. Okay, great. Now we have that. Don't tell me about the fraud anymore. Tell me about who you're going after. That's all I care about now.
This is sort of like the war with Iran. Every single time, don't get me wrong, it's 100% necessary. But Trump's saying, we've taken out their military, we've sunken their navy, and it's still going on. And you're like, okay, you get to a point where it's like,
tell me when it's done. Don't tell me how you're making the meal. Just let me eat.
We're gonna hit such and such, and we're gonna do blah, blah, blah. And I know that's for Iran to get those messages. But here at home, we're like, gas is still $4 a gallon. So this is the challenge. This is the challenge of where we are. How about this headline, Brock? How about that? The Biden administration purposely they were planning on getting 3 million more immigrants in before Joe Biden left, purposefully to saddle the incoming Trump administration, presumptively Trump administration, with all the litigation, all the deportation bullshit, all of it to literally drown those government agencies with a massive humanity. That's called treason. That's called working against your government for the benefit of others. That's treasonous. Oh, and that the Biden family was admittedly getting bribed by China. But other than that, I got, and Anthony Fauci's diary that said the lab leak thing was needing to be covered up and the natural origins wasn't really sticking the landing. That was 2020.
Well, we always talk about the Democrats playing the long game, right? And they play the long game really well. And that's exactly what bringing in those millions of people, that wasn't about screwing Trump per se. Yes, it is. But it's about the 2026 midterms. They know if they can saddle him, right now, they'll win in 2026 because he's not going to have time to fix it all. And I agree 100% with Iran. Stop telling me what you're doing. I don't need to know every time you're going to bomb. I don't need to know what bombs you're using. Blow them up. Pave over Iran. You're getting to the point where you can't distinguish between. I can't distinguish. This is my thinking. And I look at Iran like I look at Democrats, right? I can't distinguish between a Democrat and a leftist anymore because you people will just vote blue no matter who. If we can't distinguish between the bad people in Iran and the good people in Iran, what do you do? Sometimes I'm glad I don't have to make decisions.
Iran plays the long game too.
That's why I used the Democrats as yeah.
So we have all these stories that are coming out now. And the thing that has been dropped, there's no more talk about UFOs, Brock. There's no more talk about alien breeding programs. Does nobody care about the missing scientists? Where did they go? Where's
Nancy Guthrie?
Nancy Guthrie now, apparently the FBI is looking at that second ransom note a little bit more closely. And I'm like, dude, you can't resuscitate what was phony baloney. Whatever happened to the poor lady? Like, what a bummer, whatever it is. But I don't get it.
Okay, I'm going to pause this here. And again, great information. And I will share this in my daily news wrap up. But, excuse me, let me click the Rumble link here and show you that this video does come from Weekends with Wendy, Wendy Bell Radio. I've given her a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. Okay, let's jump back here and let me copy these live chats into a comment so that they will be a permanent part of the video. There we go. Good deal. And folks, let me remind you that these videos that I've shared with you here are videos that come directly from the producer. I have the links to the videos in the description box as well as the links to the producer's channel if you'd like to go check out more information that they have. And these videos that I've shared with you tonight are videos that I've posted on Mertech.com. Again, there's Andrew Klavan. Right down here is Wendy Bell, X22 report. Also, Robert Gouveia, there's the video I shared with you from him, where I have, Mertech.com is where I have over 40 no-nonsense, common sense, logic, and truth videos. This is your one-stop shop for information that you're not going to get on the mainstream media. The link to Mertech.com is in the description box. It's a free site. Please come over. Feel free to come over and check it out. I do the surfing for you. I update the site daily, multiple times a day, in fact, to get you fresh new information that you're not going to find on the mainstream media. Now, I'd like to share all of this with you, but unfortunately, I just don't have the time to do so. And that's why I've put together Mertech's Daily News Wrap-Up. where it says I have 19 videos in here, about 10 or 11 hours worth of great information. We'll start off with Weekends with Wendy, then move on to the Andrew Klavan video and finish up on it, and X22 report, Robert Gouveia, We the People News, On the Fringe, Sean Spicer, Barry Cunningham, a ton of great information here, folks. So as of right now, go ahead and take a break, grab a cup of coffee and a donut, or maybe a nice glass of wine and some cheese, and meet me back here in about 15 or 20 minutes so I can get this set up in Rumble Studio, and we'll take off with the Daily News Wrap Up. But in the meantime, I do want to thank you for being here. Hopefully, I'll get to see you again later, and may God bless.